Hi everyone, I have had a lot of questions about orofacial release part 1 and part 2. So if you have not watched those yet, I would strongly encourage you go back and watch those. The question is about, what about downstream stuff? Now this could mean you have vocal issues, your voice isn't sounding the way it used to, or you're not happy with it, or you're a performer and you're going through a certain era of life, maybe postpartum, perimenopause, menopause, etc. It could be any of those things, regardless of, gender, although I listed female conditions. There's obviously a lot of things that can happen as a male too, to make your voice change where you're not happy with it. Maybe you're a dancer and you got an injury and your voice isn't coming back, right? Maybe it was an ab injury and your voice isn't coming back. Or maybe you're getting vocal endurance, issues or fatigue. Whatever that is, I get a lot of questions, from those folks about what to do downstream. So again, orofacial part 1 and part 2 is where you need to go first. However, if you're doing those things and the needle is not moving, what do? 2 more diaphragms you need to pay attention to. The respiratory diaphragm, which of course in performing arts is like primary, right? It's like king, queen, whatever you want to call it. When you're looking at the respiratory diaphragm, though, there's a lot going on in here. Now, I use imaging right over here. I use ultrasound imaging in my practice to get to the brass tacks. What's most important? No guesswork. We're not chasing symptoms. We are treating the systems, okay? So I will measure that to see what it looks like improving people's vocal performance or whatever it may be. It might be sexual health and performance because they are interlinked, they are intertwined, or maybe you just want to be better at yoga, Pilates, lifting weights, right? All of these things are essential. So you cannot ignore those pieces. And in fact, I would argue that you'd be a much better athlete, whether you are a vocalist, instrumentalist, or whether you are, Olympic level. You would be a much better athlete if you actually have good pressure management from the voice to the pelvic floor. And again, I use imaging, musculoskeletal ultrasound imaging to progress those programs for people who come to see me. However, if you don't have imaging, if you can't come and see me, what are some of the things that I work on with patients? One is the respiratory diaphragm. Do you see how I have a 90-degree angle here? And when I inhale, watch what happens. Do you see how the angle, and I'm holding my ribcage out on purpose, which you should be able to do if you have good control, and that is kind of a normal angle when you inhale. Notice how I'm not using the muscles in the neck either, okay? And then exhale, goes back down to 90. That is called a reverse exhale. You should be able to master that first. However, if you have anything tight in the diaphragm, it's not going to work. So it just occurred to me you may not be able to see that. So let me put this down a little bit and do it again. So 90 degrees, about 120 degrees, maybe 130. No tightness, no use of the orofacial muscles, and then back down to 90 again. Here's what it looks like when I hold the ribs from the outside. There's the angle, there's the expansion, angle and expansion. You can't use anything up here, no chest breathing whatsoever. So one more time. Now I'm going to do it without breathing. That's the next step. So without breathing, I just expand and I relax. If you can't do that, the next thing to consider is the respiratory diaphragm release. So if you haven't done that one, go visit that general video, okay? However, if you've done that one and you're like, it's not enough, then a couple of things to think about. One, I'm doing this sitting up, but I've also normalized my voice to pelvic floor connection, so I have the benefit of already having the progress on that. But if you haven't done that, sitting up is not the way to start. You want to start in supine, lying down, lying flat, knees bent, feet flat. So looking like here. That allows you to get up under the rib cage in a much more efficient, fashion, okay? People ask me, what is actually normal? How far should you be able to get up under it? And the answer is about this far, okay? So that's as far as you want to get underneath it. So if I'm lying down and doing this, I might use one hand to come up under the angle, not the edge and not the center, but just the angle to get up under it. Try to touch your fingers to the back side of the rib cage. Notice that you can even slouch. I can do it while slouching here. And when you inhale, fingers dig in, touch the back side. As you exhale, you're literally making contact and holding. If you've had any abdominal surgery, any voice issues, any pelvic floor issues, hip arthroscopy, hypermobility, then this is going to be impacted. You would think that with hypermobility, endometriosis, any of the other things that I mentioned, that it would be maybe loose, but after surgeries and or hypermobility, you have this tight feeling. And if you're hypermobile, you might have a tight, unstable feeling. So that's a lot, okay? So notice I just stayed there the whole time I was talking. It only takes 2 minutes to do, and then you change sides. Now in my other respiratory diaphragm video, I talk about expansion from both sides, manually at the same time, and then digging. That is very advanced. It's very hard to do. Most people are gonna have to do one side at a time, not both at the same time. So that is the way that you would handle your respiratory diaphragm release in the beginning, lying on your back, feet flat, knees bent, until it is pain-free and you actually feel a little bit freer, you know, everything's loosened up. Now, the evidence base supports that if you're doing this, you can actually improve hamstring length, neck pain. This is not just about vital capacity of the lungs and strengthening your breathing so it's more powerful. This is about changing the entire experience, releasing the pelvic floor, releasing the orofacial area, improving vocal fatigue. There are a lot of benefits to mastering a respiratory diaphragm release. So I hope this has been helpful to know that you do not have to start in upright sitting. You do not have to do both at the same time. You don't have to have someone else doing a respiratory diaphragm release for you, but in the beginning, it could be helpful to see a manual therapist, which usually is going to be an orthopedic or pelvic floor PT or OT. If someone is very well versed in body work, they may be able to do that as well, or visceral mobilization, which is incredibly powerful interventional tool. So if you've liked this video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends, and go back and watch orofacial part 1, orofacial part 2, and respiratory diaphragm release to get the rest of the pieces of the puzzle.